The corridors of Kepler-7 Archive Station gleamed under sterile blue lighting. The massive facility stretched 15 kilometers in diameter, floating in the darkness of space like a monument to galactic achievement. Within its titanium walls rested the ancestral records of 47 alien civilizations, quantum-locked databases, genetic repositories, and cultural artifacts representing millions of years of collective history filled every chamber. Kim Dae-ho pushed his cleaning cart down Corridor 12C. His worn boots squeaked against the polished floor with each step. The night shift suited him fine. There were fewer crowds, less noise, and nobody bothered the janitor. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, ever since the crushing debt from his mother's medical treatments had forced him to take any off-world work he could find. At 52 years old, Dae-ho was unremarkable in every way. His hair had turned gray at the temples. He walked with a slight limp from an old construction accident back on Earth. He kept his head down, did his work without complaint, and sent most of his paycheck back home to Busan, where his younger brother Parju looked after his teenage son. Tonight seemed like any other night. The Vakreen research team was working late again in their laboratory. The insectoid scholars barely noticed when Dae-ho entered to empty their waste receptacles. Their compound eyes glittered like fractured gemstones under the laboratory lights as they worked. "The primitive is here," one of them said in Galactic Common, his mandibles clicking with amusement. Right on schedule. Dae-ho had learned years ago to ignore such comments. He simply nodded politely and moved to collect the bio-waste containers near their testing stations. The Vakreen had always treated him with barely concealed contempt. To them, humans were newcomers to the galaxy, primitive creatures who had only achieved space travel 2 centuries ago. "Human janitor, come here for a moment," Dr. Velkith called out. He was a lead Vakreen researcher, and his triangular head swiveled toward Dae-ho. Dae-ho hesitated for just a moment, then approached. "Yes, sir. We are testing a new universal ancestry tracker," Velkith explained. He gestured with one of his 4 arms toward a massive cylindrical device that hummed with barely contained energy. The machine was taller than Dae-ho and covered in holographic displays. It maps genetic lineages across all registered species in the Galactic Council. We need to calibrate it with various DNA samples. Another Vakreen researcher, younger and more eager than the others, chittered excitedly. "Let us scan a human. The machine will surely register him as unclassified primitive stock. It will be quite amusing to see." Velkith's mandibles spread wide in what Dae-ho had learned was a Vakreen equivalent of a grin. "Yes, an excellent idea. A harmless demonstration. Simply place your hand on the scanning pad. Human. It will take only a moment." Dae-ho shrugged. He had been poked and prodded by alien medical scanners when he got his work permit anyway. What was one more test? He stepped forward and placed his callous hand on the glowing blue pad. The surface felt cool against his palm. The machine hummed softly for exactly 3 seconds. Then every alarm in the entire facility activated simultaneously. Red emergency lights flooded the laboratory, bathing everything in crimson. Klaxons blared so loudly that Dae-ho clapped his hands over his ears. The cylindrical device began spinning faster and faster, projecting holographic data streams that spiraled upward like a tornado made of pure light. The Vakreen researchers jerked backward in shock, their antennae flattening against their skulls in obvious panic. "What is happening?" Velkith's translator struggled to keep up with his frantic chittering. "This is impossible." Dae-ho yanked his hand back from the scanning pad, his heart hammering in his chest. "What did I do? I just put my hand there like you said." The laboratory doors burst open with a hiss. Armed security guards stormed in, massive Brenhar soldiers with gray, rock-like skin and plasma rifles raised. Behind them came Station Commander Threll, an elegant Pelothian whose crystalline features were sharp with alarm. Her entire body seemed to shimmer in the emergency lighting. "Seal this entire section immediately," Threll commanded. Her voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. "Nobody moves. Nobody leaves." The Ancestry Tracker's holographic display expanded rapidly, filling the entire laboratory with cascading data. Dae-ho watched in growing confusion as text in dozens of different alien languages scrolled past, moving too fast for him to read or comprehend. Numbers and genetic sequences flashed by in streams of light. Then the system suddenly focused. All the chaos of information condensed into a single message that appeared 3 meters tall in the center of the room, written in Galactic Common, so everyone could read it clearly. Genetic match confirmed subject. Kim DHO human. Classification. Founder template archive matches. 31 civilizations probability. 99.9997%. The laboratory fell absolutely silent, except for the continuing wail of the alarms. Every being in the room stared at the message in stunned disbelief. Velkit approached the holographic display with trembling limbs. His earlier arrogance had completely vanished. "Run the comparison again," he said, his voice shaking. "This must be a system error. It has to be." Comparison running. The machine's artificial intelligence responded in a calm, neutral tone. Accessing Royal Archives now. Andrus Throne World. Solvari Matriarchy. Krent Star Kingdom. Hive Collective of Proxima. Vetherian Empire. With each name the AI spoke, a new holographic window materialized in the air. Each window displayed an ancient genetic template stored in that civilization's most sacred archives. And next to each template, the same words appeared in glowing green letters. Match confirmed. Commander Threll stepped closer to Deho. Her crystalline eyes were wide with something that looked like awe mixed with fear. "Do you understand what this means?" "No," Deho said honestly. His voice shook and his legs felt weak. "I have no idea what any of this means. I am just a janitor. These archives," Ithrell gestured to the cascading displays surrounding them, "contain the genetic signatures of the founders, the ancient progenitors who established each civilization's ruling bloodlines thousands upon thousands of years ago. They are quantum lock records, completely impossible to forge or alter. Many of them have been sealed for millennia." She turned to face him fully, and Deho could see his own confused reflection in her crystalline features. "And according to 31 separate civilizations that have never met each other, never shared information, and exist thousands of light years apart from one another, you are genetically identical to their founder." Within 6 hours, Kepler-7 transformed into a diplomatic battleground. The peaceful archive station suddenly became the center of galactic attention, and nobody knew quite how to handle it. Deho sat alone in what they called a detention suite. The room was luxurious by station standards, with soft furniture and a large viewport overlooking space. But the door was locked from the outside, and guards stood in the corridor. He was not exactly a prisoner, but he certainly was not free to leave. Through the viewport, he watched sleek starships arrive one after another. Each vessel bore the emblems of ancient empires that ruled across the galaxy. The Solvari Matriarchy sent crimson-colored ships that looked like flowing ribbons of metal. The crystalline cruisers of the Krent Star Kingdom sparkled like diamonds even in the darkness of space. The living bioships of the Hive Collective pulsed with organic light as they docked at the station. All of these powerful civilizations had sent their representatives. All for him, a simple janitor from Busan. Deho rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept since the incident in the laboratory. His mind kept replaying the moment when every alarm in the facility had activated. The shocked faces of the Vakreen researchers. The message declaring him a genetic match to ancient royalty from dozens of worlds. It made no sense. His family had lived in Korea for generations. His grandfather had been a fisherman. His father had worked at the docks. Deho himself had spent most of his life doing manual labor, trying to make ends meet. There was nothing special about him. The door chimed softly. Commander Threll entered, her crystalline body catching the light beautifully. Behind her came a human woman, wearing a crisp Earth diplomatic uniform. The woman looked to be in her 40s, with intelligent eyes and an air of authority. "Mr. Kim, this is Dr. Han Min Seo from Earth's Xenogenetic Institute," Ithrell said, gesturing to the woman. "She has come to help us understand your situation." Min Seo bowed slightly in the traditional Korean manner, then sat down across from Dae-ho. Her expression was serious, but not unkind. "Mr. Kim, I have reviewed all the data from the Ancestry Tracker. What we have found is unprecedented in the history of xenogenetics." "What does that mean exactly?" Dae-ho asked, His voice sounded tired even to his own ears. Min Seo pulled out a small device and activated a holographic display between them. Complex genetic sequences appeared in the air, but she quickly simplified the image. Your DNA contains genetic markers that match 31 different alien species at very specific sequences. This should not be possible through any natural evolutionary process we understand. So what does it mean? Daeho leaned forward, desperate for answers. We do not know yet, Minesio admitted, but every single one of these 31 civilizations has founding myths about something they call the progenitor, a being who walked among them thousands of years ago, established their ruling bloodlines, and then vanished without explanation. Some of these myths are over 12,000 years old. Commander Ithrel activated another holographic display. 31 different star systems appeared, scattered across the entire galaxy like jewels on a map. These civilizations have never met each other before they joined the Galactic Council. Many of them are separated by thousands of light years. Yet their myths about the founder are remarkably similar. Ancient text began scrolling past in the hologram, translated into Korean for Daeho to read. Despite being written in completely different languages, in different eras, by different species, the stories all share common elements. The founder came from beyond the stars, bringing gifts of knowledge in the sacred bloodline. He stayed among us for 7 generations, teaching us wisdom and justice. Then he departed with a promise: protect the children of Earth. They will not remember, but they must survive. Daeho stared at the words. Earth? They mention Earth specifically? Yes, Minisio said quietly. Every single civilization's oldest texts mention protecting Earth, or the Blue Cradle, or the third world of the Yellow Sun. They were given this command billions of years ago, long before humanity even evolved on our planet. This is insane, Daeho said, running his hands through his gray hair. How is any of this possible? It gets more complicated, Ithrel said, and her tone was grim. 3 royal families have already declared their current rulers illegitimate. If you truly are the blood heir that their laws recognize, then their dynasties have no legal claim to their thrones. We are looking at the potential for multiple civil wars across the galaxy. A chime interrupted them. A voice came through the communication system. Commander, the Krent ambassador is demanding immediate access to human. She is threatening to withdraw her entire civilization from the Galactic Council if she is denied. Ithrel closed her crystalline eyes for a moment, clearly frustrated. Tell her she will have her audience. But not yet. We need more time. She turned back to Daeho. The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session tomorrow. Every major civilization is sending their highest representatives. You will need to address them directly, Mr. Kim. They will have questions and they will demand answers. What am I supposed to say? Daeho asked, feeling panic rising in his chest. I do not know anything about being a founder of civilizations. I clean floors for a living. I have debts. I have a son back on Earth who needs me. I am just an ordinary person. An ordinary person who apparently carries a genetic legacy of 31 ancient empires, Minesio said softly. Her expression was sympathetic. But right now, Mr. Kim, you are the most important human being in the entire galaxy. Possibly the most important being of any species. That evening, after hours of bureaucratic delay, Daeho finally got his video call home. His younger brother Jiwoo's face appeared on the screen, eyes wide with concern and confusion. Hyung, what is happening up there? Jiwoo asked immediately. The news is saying you are some kind of alien royalty. They are calling you the founder. There are reporters camped outside our apartment building. They want interviews, photographs, statements. I do not understand it any better than you do, Daeho admitted. His voice cracked slightly. How is Taesung handling all of this? Your son is confused and scared. He keeps asking when you're coming home. Jiwoo leaned closer to the camera. Daeho, these reporters are aggressive. Some of them are trying to get to Taesung at his school. Do not let them near him, Daeho said sharply, feeling protective anger rise in his chest. Please, Jiwoo, keep him safe. Keep him away from all of this media chaos. His brother nodded firmly. We will manage. Hyung, I moved us to Mother's old house in the countryside this morning. It is more remote there. But Deho, you need to be careful up there on that station. Whatever is happening, it sounds dangerous. After the call ended, Deho sat in the silence of his luxurious prison. Through the viewport, more ships continued to arrive. The galaxy was converging on Kepler-7, all because of a Kreen researcher had scanned his DNA as a joke. He thought about his ordinary life back on Earth. The Galactic Council Chamber was a marvel of engineering that took Deho's breath away. The massive sphere stretched 500 meters in diameter, large enough to hold entire buildings inside. Representatives from 47 different civilizations gathered here in zero gravity, floating on holographic platforms that allowed each delegate to face the center of a chamber. And in that center, surrounded by a shimmering containment field, floated Kim Deho. He felt distinctly like a specimen under examination in some giant laboratory. Thousands of eyes focused on him. Some were compound eyes like the Vakreen possessed. Others were crystalline organs that sensed light in ways humans could not understand. A few civilizations had no eyes at all, but used different sensory organs to perceive their surroundings. All of them were watching him now. Deho had never felt so exposed in his entire life. He wore a simple gray uniform that the station had provided. His worn cleaning clothes had been taken away and replaced with something more dignified. But he still felt like a janitor pretending to be important. Supreme Arbiter Keldar spoke first. The ancient Pelothian's crystalline body had served the Council for 3 centuries, and his voice carried weight and authority. We convene today to address what we are calling the Founder Paradox. Mr. Kim Deho of Earth stands before us, genetically confirmed as matching the founder templates of 31 member civilizations. We must determine the truth of the situation and decide what it means for all of us. A Vakreen delegate rose from his platform, his insectoid body gleaming. The ancestry tracker is completely infallible. Its quantum genetic analysis cannot be deceived or fooled. If the machine declares this human a match, then he is definitely a match. There can be no doubt. But the timeline makes no sense. A Brenhar military commander objected, his rocky gray skin looking almost angry. Human fossil records show continuous evolution on their planet Earth for millions of years. They have only been traveling in space for 2 centuries. How could humans possibly have founded our civilizations thousands of years ago? The mathematics do not work. Dr. Han Min Seo, representing Earth, activated her own holographic display. She looked small compared to many of the alien delegates, but her voice was clear and confident. We have conducted extensive testing on Mr. Kim's DNA over the past several days. What we discovered is truly extraordinary. His genome contains what we are calling dormant bridge sequences. These are sections of genetic code that activate compatibility with multiple alien species. She highlighted specific gene sequences in a hologram, making them glow bright blue. These sequences are not natural. They show clear signs of precise engineering, placed with deliberate purpose by someone with incredible knowledge. And here is what makes this even more remarkable. All humans carry these bridge sequences in their DNA, but in most of us they remain inactive and dormant. In Mr. Kim, however, they are fully expressed and active. Why him specifically? Asked the Solvari ambassador, her voice melodic and curious. What makes this one human different from all the others? We honestly do not know yet, Minesio admitted. It could be random genetic activation, or there might be some environmental trigger that we have not yet identified. We are still researching. An ancient voice spoke up, resonant and deep. An elderly Vetharian named Corvessa floated forward on his platform. His species lived for thousands of years, and he was among the oldest beings currently serving on the council. Many delegates straightened with respect when he spoke. I have studied the founder myths for 800 years of my life, Corvessa said slowly. I have read every text, examined every artifact, interviewed scholars from dozens of worlds, and I have noticed patterns that others dismissed as coincidence or imagination. He projected ancient texts into the center of the chamber, surrounding Deho with floating words from countless civilizations. Each civilization that the founder visited received exactly 3 gifts. First, a genetic legacy. He mixed his bloodlines with theirs, creating ruling families. Second, a technological seed. He gave them knowledge that jump-started their advancement into spacefaring cultures. Third, a warning. The text began glowing, highlighting specific passages. Despite being written in completely different languages, separated by thousands of years and light years of distance, the warning was eerily consistent. Protect the children of Earth. They will not remember who they are, but they must survive. When the time comes, they will need you as you once needed me. Corvessida's ancient eyes focused on Deho. The founder knew that humanity would one day arise on Earth. He prepared the entire galaxy to welcome them, to protect them. But why? What did he know that we still do not understand? Deho felt his heart pounding. This was all too much. He raised his hand hesitantly, like a student in a classroom. May I speak? The entire chamber fell silent. Every delegate turned their attention to him. I appreciate that everyone is interested in my DNA, Deho said carefully, trying to keep his voice steady. But I need you all to understand something. I am just a regular person. I work night shifts cleaning floors. I have a teenage son who needs braces for his teeth. I have debts from my mother's medical treatments. I have never founded anything in my entire life, except maybe a pretty decent gambling debt when I was in my 20s. A few delegates made sounds that their translators rendered as laughter or amusement. Whatever my ancestors did millions of years ago, it was not me. I did not do any of those things. I cannot rule your kingdoms because I do not know your laws or your histories or your cultures. I am not the person you have been waiting for. I am just a man who cleans floors. Ambassador N.L. Iris of the Krenstar Kingdom rose gracefully from her platform. Her bronze-scaled skin caught the light beautifully, and her eyes glowed like embers. With great respect, Mr. Kim, you do not understand our complete prophecy. We have kept parts of it secret, known only to our highest mystics and our royal family. She spoke clearly so all could hear. The full prophecy states this. The founder will return wearing the face of forgetting. He will be a simple soul who swept clean the palace of stars. He will remember nothing of his ancient glory, because he chose to be born innocent again. And when he is finally found, the time of great testing will begin. N.A.L. Iris looked directly at Deho. You are a janitor who sweeps and cleans the archives. The Palace of Stars, we call this place. You remember nothing of your legacy or your power. This is not a contradiction to our prophecy, Mr. Kim. This is its exact fulfillment. You are precisely who we expected. Before Deho could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the council chamber. Unidentified vessel approaching at extremely high velocity, a technician reported, her voice tight with alarm. It is broadcasting founder authorization codes. These are codes we have never seen active before in recorded history. On the main display screen, a ship appeared that made every delegate gasp or make sound of shock. The vessel was unlike anything in the Council's extensive databases. Its design incorporated architectural elements from all 31 affected civilizations, somehow blended together into a seamless and beautiful whole. Our sensors never detected it until this moment, the technician continued, her hand shaking as she worked her controls. But according to our scans, it has been drifting in your solar system's Oort cloud for millions of years. The ship is ancient beyond measure, but its systems are activating right now. The ship transmitted a message in perfect galactic common that echoed through every speaker in the chamber. Genetic key detected. Primary recipient identified as Kim Deho. Initiating memory protocol sequence. Stand by for data transfer. Corvessida's ancient eyes went wide with wonder. The founder left something for us. Something that could only be activated by his genetic return. After all these millennia, the message is finally being delivered. Supreme Arbiter Keldaz made a quick decision. Prepare an immediate boarding team. We must investigate this vessel and discover what secrets it holds. I am going too, Deho said suddenly, surprising himself with his own boldness. Everyone turned to stare at him. That ship knows my name, he said firmly, finding courage he did not know he possessed. Whatever is on board, it was left for me specifically. I want answers as much as any of you do. Maybe more. The revelation from the ancient ship spread across the galaxy like wildfire. News networks broadcast the discovery on every civilized world. Social media platforms exploded with debates and arguments. The message from Kim Soo-jin, a human woman from 4 million years in the future, changed everything people thought they knew about the universe. Within days, public opinion fractured into 3 distinct camps. Some beings viewed Dae-ho with religious reverence, treating him like a living saint whose ancestors had saved countless worlds from extinction. They built shrines with his image. They prayed to him. They wanted to worship at his feet. Others saw him as a dangerous threat, a genetic wildcard who could legitimately claim rulership over a third of the entire galaxy. If he chose to exercise his rights as the founder's heir, he could overthrow 31 different governments. Kings and queens who had ruled for generations would lose their thrones. This group feared him deeply. A smaller but more pragmatic faction simply wanted him eliminated before he could destabilize the political order. Assassination plots were already being whispered about in dark corners. Some extremists believed that killing all humans now would prevent future chaos and war. Dae-ho spent those terrible days in protective custody, watching the galaxy argue about his fate on news screens. He desperately tried to video call his son, but the communication networks were overwhelmed. When he finally got through, his heart broke at what he saw. 17-year-old Kim Tae-sung appeared on the screen, his young face tight with worry and fear. Dark circles showed under his eyes. "Dad, are you okay? Are they treating you well up there?" "I am fine, Tae-sung. I promise you I am safe." Dae-ho tried to smile reassuringly. "How are you handling everything that is happening?" His son shrugged, trying to look brave but failing. "Uncle Ji-woo moved us to grandmother's old house in the countryside, away from all the reporters and camera crews. But Dad, what they say about you on the news, is it really true? Are you really connected to all those aliens?" "Some of it is true," Dae-ho admitted carefully. "My DNA matches some very ancient alien records. But I am still just me. I am still your father, who forgets to call you on your birthday and always burns the rice when cooking." Tae-sung smiled weakly at that. "When are you coming home?" "Soon," Dae-ho promised, though he honestly had no idea if that was true. "Very soon, I hope." That night, Ambassador Enel Iris visited him again in his detention suite. Her bronze scales looked almost sad in the dim lighting. "The Krent High Council has voted," she said formally, standing straight and proud. "We wish to offer you the crown of stars. Full rulership of our entire kingdom. It is your birthright by blood and by law." "I cannot accept that," Dae-ho said immediately, shaking his head. "I am not qualified to rule anyone." "I know you will refuse," Enel Iris replied, and her glowing eyes looked sad. "But I had to make the offer officially. It is our tradition and our law. 23 other civilizations are preparing similar offers right now. The Solvari matriarchy wants to name you their eternal father. The Hive Collective wishes to integrate your genetics into their genetic collective as a prime progenitor." She sat down across from him, abandoning her formal posture. "But there's another faction growing stronger each day. Those who fear you and what you represent. They see the founder's return as an existential threat to their power and stability. 3 royal families have already collapsed into civil war. People are dying, Dae-ho, and there are assassination attempts being planned. Against me?" Dae-ho felt ice in his stomach. "Against you, against other humans in general. Some extremists believe that eliminating humanity entirely will prevent future instability and chaos." She leaned forward urgently. "Mr. Kim, you need to make a choice soon. Either claim the thrones are being offered or publicly refuse them forever. But you must choose quickly before the galaxy tears itself apart in conflict." The next morning, Supreme Arbiter Keldar summoned Dae-ho to a private meeting in his personal chambers. The ancient Pelothian's crystalline body seemed to glow with inner light. "I have served the Galactic Council for 300 years, Keldar said quietly. "I have witnessed empires rise and fall. I have seen wars and peace, triumph and tragedy. But I have never seen anything quite like this situation. You are simultaneously the most revered and most feared being in all of known space. I never asked for any of this, Daiho said wearily. He felt exhausted down to his bones. No one ever asked for destiny, Keldaz replied wisely. Destiny simply arrives one day, whether we want it or not. He paused thoughtfully. The Council is prepared to offer you an unprecedented position. We would name you Galactic Arbiter of the Founder Civilizations. You would have authority over all 31 worlds. You could mediate disputes, guide policy, and help maintain peace. Another throne, Daiho said flatly, just with a different name. A responsibility, Keldaz corrected gently. Your ancestors engineered this entire situation millions of years ago. Perhaps it is your duty to help manage the consequences of their actions. Daiho stood and walked to the large viewport in the chamber. Outside, Kepler 7 orbited a beautiful blue star that reminded him painfully of Earth's sun. He could see ships from dozens of civilizations docked at the station, all waiting for his decision. My ancestors gave up everything, he said slowly, thinking carefully about each word. They sacrificed their future, their memories, their very identities. They did all of that to save species they would never meet in a time they would never see. They did not do it so I could sit on thrones and rule over others. They did it so everyone could be free to live their own lives. He turned to face Keldaz directly. I want to address the full council. All 47 civilizations. Everyone. That is highly irregular procedure. Keldaz began. I do not care about procedure. Daiho interrupted. If the entire galaxy is arguing about me and my future, then I should get to speak for myself. I should get to tell them directly what I have decided. Keldaz studied him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Very well. I will arrange it. But Mr. Kim, understand that whatever you say will shape galactic politics for generations to come. Your words will echo across the stars. Good, Daiho said quietly. Then I will make sure they're the right words. 2 days later, the Galactic Council convened in full session. All 47 civilizations sent their highest representatives. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched via holographic broadcasts, waiting to hear what the founder would say. Daiho floated once again in the center of the great chamber. But this time, Dr. Han Minesio had insisted he wear his old janitor's uniform. The gray work clothes were clean, but clearly worn from years of use. Make a statement with your appearance, she had urged him. Show them exactly who you really are. Now, facing thousands of delegates and billions of viewers across space, Daiho took a deep breath and began to speak. His voice was steady and clear. My name is Kim Daiho. I am 52 years old. I have a son named Taesung who wants to become a musician. I work as a janitor because the pay is enough to cover my debts and help support my family back home. I enjoy fishing and watching old movies and eating spicy noodles. He paused, looking around at all the assembled delegates. I have spent the last 2 weeks learning about my ancestors, people who lived millions of years in the future, people who traveled backward through time to save all of you. It is an incredible story, and I am proud to be related to them, even though I do not really understand how time travel genetics actually work. A few delegates made sounds of amusement. But here is what I do understand clearly. Daiho continued, his voice growing stronger. My ancestors did not sacrifice everything so that I could become a king or an emperor. They did not give up their memories and their futures so that I could rule over you. They did it for a much simpler and more beautiful reason. They did it so we could all be free, so that when humanity finally reached the stars, we would have family waiting for us, not subjects or servants. Family. 3 months later, Kim Daiho stood in his mother's old house overlooking the sea near Busan. The autumn wind carried the smell of salt and fish, familiar scents that brought comfort to his tired soul. The small house sat on a hill with a perfect view of the ocean, the same view his mother had loved for 40 years. His younger brother Jiwoo worked in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The sounds of chopping vegetables and the sizzle of cooking oil drifted through the house. His son Taesung practiced guitar in the back room, struggling through a difficult chord progression. The notes were sometimes clumsy, but filled with determination. They drifted through the open windows on the cool breeze. Hyung, the ambassador from the Krent Kingdom, sent another gift. Jiwoo called out from somewhere inside. Some kind of expensive crystal sculpture. Where should I put it? Storage. Daeho replied without looking away from the ocean. With all the others. The last 3 months had been a whirlwind of diplomatic visits, ceremonial honors, and polite requests for genetic samples from various civilizations. Daeho had refused most of it. He had accepted only a modest stipend from the Galactic Council. It was enough money to pay off all his debts and support his family comfortably, but not so much that it would change who he was as a person. He had returned to Earth as quietly as possible, though quiet was a relative term when 31 alien civilizations considered you their most important ancestor. The media attention had been intense for the first few weeks. Reporters camped outside the house. Camera drones tried to peek through windows. Interview requests flooded his communication device every hour. But gradually, the attention faded. The galaxy moved on to other news. Other crises demanded headlines. Daeho became simply another story, filed away in the history books. His communication device chimed softly. Dr. Han Minasio's face appeared on the small screen, smiling warmly. "Mr. Kim, I wanted to update you on the latest developments," she said professionally. "The Founders Alliance is now officially ratified. All 31 civilizations have signed the Mutual Defense Pact. Political analysts are calling it the most significant development in galactic history. That is good news." Daeho said sincerely, "I am glad they are working together peacefully." "There is something else I thought you should know," Minacio continued. "We have been analyzing more data from the ancient ship. We discovered coordinates marked as relay stations throughout deep space. We think your ancestors left additional resources out there. Technology, information, maybe even specific warnings about the silence that was mentioned. Then the Alliance should investigate those locations." Daeho said simply, "I am sure they will want to know what is there." Minacio smiled knowingly. "You really meant it, didn't you? About going back to your normal life and refusing all the power. I was never meant for thrones and titles and ruling." Daeho replied honestly, "My ancestors understood that truth. They chose to become ordinary humans again for a very good reason. I am just honoring that choice by living as they intended." After the call ended, Daeho walked down the narrow path to the beach. The evening sun painted the water in shades of gold and orange and red. Waves crashed against the rocks with a rhythm as old as time itself. He removed his shoes and felt the cool sand between his toes. He thought about the hologram he had seen on the ancient ship. Kim Soo-jin from 4 million years in the future, wearing his grandmother's kind face. He thought about all the volunteers who had given up everything they were. They had scattered themselves across time and space, planted the seeds of civilizations, all to ensure that humanity would not be alone when they finally reached the stars. Those people had been genuine heroes. They had made impossible sacrifices. They had lived through unimaginable loneliness. They had given up their memories, their identities, their very futures for species they would never meet and times they would never see. And they had chosen to become people exactly like him. Ordinary people, flawed people, simple people just trying to live good lives. Maybe that was the real lesson hidden in all of this. Heroism was not really about power or glory or having your name remembered. It was about making impossible choices and living with the consequences. It was about sacrificing everything, including recognition and fame, for a future you would never personally see. His son appeared beside him on the beach. Tae-sung had grown taller in recent months. He was becoming a young man. "Dad, are you okay? You've been standing out here for a while." "I am fine," Tae-sung. Daeho put his arm around his son's shoulders. "Just thinking about everything that happened." The boy leaned against his father comfortably. "Are you okay with how things turned out? I mean, you could be a king right now. You could be ruling entire planets. Instead, you are back here cleaning floors at the community center." Daeho smiled genuinely. "You know what I learned through all of this? I learned that it is okay to be ordinary. That sometimes the biggest gift you can give a universe is just being human, being flawed and humble, and doing your best each day. For what it is worth," Tae-sung said quietly, "I think you are pretty extraordinary." "Thanks, son. But I am still just a dad who is going to burn dinner. if we do not get back soon to help your uncle cook." They walked back to the house together, leaving footprints in the sand that the tide would soon wash away. Overhead, a shooting star streaked across the darkening sky. Except it was not actually a star. It was a Krent diplomatic vessel passing through Earth's orbit, part of the New Alliance patrol routes that now protected human space. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer the newcomer species, the primitive civilization trying to find its place among ancient empires. They were family now, part of a vast network that stretched across thousands of worlds, bound together by ancient sacrifice and genetic memory. But for Kim Dae-ho, the most important things remained simple and close. The smell of his brother's cooking drifting from the kitchen, the sound of his son's guitar filling the house with music, the feeling of sand between his toes and salt air in his lungs. 1 week later, he started a new job at the local community center in their small town. The pay was modest and the work was simple. He would clean floors, fix broken things, and help elderly residents with daily tasks. He was a janitor again, and he had never been happier in his entire life. Far above Earth, in the massive Founders Alliance headquarters that now orbited humanity's homeworld, representatives from 31 civilizations worked together. They studied the relay stations. They prepared defenses against the silence that might come someday. They built a future based on cooperation instead of conquest. And in a small house overlooking the sea near Busan, an ordinary man sat with his family and ate dinner. He laughed at his brother's jokes. He listened to his son's dreams about becoming a musician. He planned his work schedule for the following week. Kim Dae-ho had been offered kingdoms and crowns and power beyond imagination. He had chosen something infinitely more valuable. He had chosen to stay human. And in that choice, he honored the greatest sacrifice ever made. The end